let's get cracking, shall we? At the beginning of the year, we did every 90 days we do a planning day for all our clients. Some of you who are on the call, you know that already. And we did one the start of this year with all great hopes for 2020, a new decade. You know, really, really positive start. Unfortunately, that plan A has gone out of the window now for obvious reasons. So it really is time for plan B. Some people didn't necessarily even have a plan A to begin with. So, but now we all need to have a plan B if you want to thrive and survive this awful situation that we find ourselves in. Just going back to my background really is I started coaching with Action Coach in 2007, and less than a year later, we had the big credit crunch, the credit crisis then. So, you know, interesting times then, interesting times now. But obviously having gone through that myself and gone through that with hundreds of clients at that time, it does stand you in good stead, you know, to be able to advise people properly. There may be some of you on the call already who were also in business at that time, and obviously you did well and you got through that, and we will get through this as well. It's unusual. We just don't know when it's going to end, but it will end if everyone does what they're supposed to be doing and do what they're told with the official guidance and advice that we get. So let's crack on then. So the 11 steps for your business must start doing today to plan for the coronavirus economic panic that a lot of people are doing. But really, the most important thing in any times of crisis is to not panic. Panic and worry don't help anybody. So we need to think quickly, think smartly, not panic and start getting too stressed about it. You know, we've got to manage all that. So it really is back to the old wartime days of Winston Churchill when this initial phrase, I think, came to bear. So keep calm and carry on. We need to have a plan though. You need to do things differently, as I'm sure many of you have done already. Just to give you an idea of how the session is going to run today, obviously I've done a bit of the introduction already, so welcome to all of you. There's a few ground rules to the call, so I'm going to go through what they are. We've also got some very important generalised principles, Action Coach, that we need to use all the time, but even more so in times like the ones we're in at the moment. I'm going to cover each one of the 11 points. With each one of those 11 points, I want you to take lots and lots of notes. And at the end of that, once I've gone through each one of these 11 points, we're going to ask lots of questions. You can type in all your questions. We're going to head on with those questions and answer any ones we can. And this is not just about me answering, this is about other people as well. So I'd like to potentially unmute people if you're feeling brave enough. We're going to share what's worked for others, see what you've put in place, what actions you've taken already. And then we'll be finished, hopefully before 3 o'clock. So the ground rules, typing questions, like I said, hand options. We've already had the hands up test already. So for those of you who weren't quite on the call, there's a button there that if you want to put your hands up, if I ask you questions and you want to make sure that you've answered those questions, if you want to talk and you want to actually get involved, then put your hand up and we can do that. Use the chat box, ask questions, any comments you may have. Like I say, I will be unmuting those of you that are brave enough that would like to share either your experiences or actions, things you've done, or ask any questions yourself, or for me to unmute you so that we can have you on there and we can answer those questions live. So like I say, take lots of notes, because at the end we're going to go through some of those questions, but also take notes so that you can then put them into action after the call. So one of the things we need to have is 100% participation, because there's only one failure in life. I'm sure you've failed at many things in your life. If you haven't, then you've probably not done enough. But the only failure really in life is the failure to participate, to do things, take actions. And like anything in life, you put 100% in, you're going to get 100% out. So very, very important that you do participate today. You'll get a lot more out of it if you do. So now there's a really important principle that we use around the world with all our clients. And it's called above and below the line. Now, there's many people in life that unfortunately go around habitually just blaming other things, other people, other situations, the coronavirus, making excuses or in plain denial. But if you see the acronym there, BED, if you stay in bed all day, how good are you in your business? You're just not going to make any progress. So, if you're pointing the finger, blaming other people, blaming anything other than yourself, or making excuses, or just in plain denial for your situation, then obviously, is that going to get you to where you want to get to in your life and in business? I would suggest probably not. So in order to be proactive and to get things done and get results, we really need to be above the line. So if you think about this as an acronym, OR, with an OR, you're in control. So if it helps you to remember this thing, bed, blaming, excuses, denial is below the line. To be above the line, you've got your own OR, and you're in control of where you're going. So you take ownership, you own your own ship. So if you're taking ownership, you're doing things about it. As business owners, you should obviously be in this category all the time. But in times like we're finding ourselves in now, then even more important that you're above the line. So there's no one else that can help you. It's your business. You've got to take ownership. You've got to lead by example and get stuff done. You're accountable, and everyone's responsible for getting through this situation that we find ourselves in. So also, it might be strange at the moment to think that you could potentially be having fun, but if you look at your team and they're looking at you, and you've got the business owner that's like panicking and stressed out, why should your team be any different? So there's a horrible expression called "a fish rots from the head down." I know it's not very nice, but if you think about it, if the person at the top is looking around stressed and panicking and sort of saying negative things to your team, why would they be any different? It's just going to make it worse. You can try to have fun and be above the line and positive through this period. It's really going to help you and everyone to get through this as best as you possibly can. So the first of the 11 steps. So number 1 is communication. So start taking notes, and remember, you can ask questions at any point throughout the call. So when it comes to a crisis, you always have to focus on building a relationship with your customers. So communication is so important, not just customers, but if you're online, your social media, your team, your suppliers, really communication is key so that people don't come to the wrong conclusions. So thinking about your team, I presume that all of you have communicated with your team and are updating your team as much as you possibly can. I've also heard a lot of stories where people are not necessarily communicating with the team. The employees are just feeling like they don't know what's going on. So I'm presuming, and I hope, and if you haven't done so already, make sure you keep up to date with your team, positive communication, regular communication, lots of updates, just to ease their fears. Be a lot of uncertainty with your team members at the moment. But your customers, I have loads of emails, I'm sure you have in your inbox, for your clients, or if you're a customer of someone else, communicating what they're doing in the current climate to make sure they can try and keep going business as usual. Your networks, everyone your suppliers, key stakeholders in the business, and people in your community. So really having clear guidelines, communications is very, very important. And if you don't have FAQs in place for your staff, so if they're answering the phone and they've got people phoning up asking questions, then you want everyone to give a consistent message and the right message. So if you don't have an FAQ, I think it's a good idea to get that done, get that in place as soon as you possibly can. If you've got any other questions on how to communicate, we can have a discussion about that when we come to the question and answers part of this call. But communication, as always, as with any good relationship, is so important, but even more so in the current climate. So number 2, be positive. As hard as it may be, it's your attitude that's really, really going to help. Now, there's a bit of an irony to this quote, as you can see here. Being Chinese is where, or China is where the virus seems to have come from. They use 2 brushstrokes to write the word crisis. One brushstroke stands for danger, the other one's for opportunity. So in all crisis situations, there are opportunities. The difference between people that are going to come out successfully and those that may not is the approach they have to these challenges. Some people would look at it and panic and just crumble. But those people that are going to be stronger at the other side are going to think, right, how can we improve? What can we do better? How are we going to be much stronger as we come through this? What are the opportunities going to be once we do come out of the other side? If you think about it, there could be quite a few companies that may may go down. I'm sure there will be, which fortunately for the ones that survive, there'll be a lot more opportunities because they can start working with those clients that were working with your competitors. Also, there could be more staff, more team, more people in the marketplace that you could pick up some good new members of staff off the back of it. So once we come through it really does seem to be survival of the fittest. One thing that doesn't help, and I'm sure you'll agree, that panic and worry and sleepless nights really don't help. I know it's easier said than done, but we really need to have a plan and keep our mindset positive. Look, we're all going to have potentially bumps in the road. We're all going to have like those little moments of doubt where you may get a bit on top of you. Don't worry, that's normal. Make sure you communicate and you've got other people that you can talk to, other business owners. If you're in networking groups, don't suffer alone. Make sure you speak to other people, because sometimes when you're up, they're down, and when they're down, you're up. You can really help to maintain those levels of positivity, because you've really got to have the belief that whatever happens, you're going to get through this, and it's very psychological. So if you have to do small wins every hour, every day, make sure there's something positive. Use it as a bit of a not competition, but something that you can bring your team together and make sure that you're always working on things positively to keep that morale up. So in a way, as you've seen, the madness of people bulk buying toilet roll and sanitizer. Look at your business, what your products and services you offer, and see if there's anything there that you can really start to promote far greater than you would maybe normally promote it. Look to change and adapt and pivot to see what you can do. I don't know about you, but every single time you go on social media or put the TV on or go on your news apps, you'll see loads and loads of headlines, some very sensationalist headlines that really don't help you. So I think sometimes less news is better, or at least listen to the advice of the official sources. Otherwise, some of these things can start triggering a bit of fear and panic. So restrict that news. Look only at the official sources. So if you've done anything personally in your business to be positive, to stay positive, actions you've taken or things you've done or discussed with your team, be nice to share those things when we get to that section in the call. Your role at the moment is to be the strongest leader you've ever been. They're looking for leadership. Everyone's looking for leadership. Like I say, a fish rots from head down, so make sure you're one of the good leaders, that you're positive and that you're being proactive and you're leading them in the way that they need to be led right now. Like I say, at the end of this situation, there may be more sales opportunities, better recruitment opportunities for you. I know there's a couple of recruitment companies on the call today, so I'm sure when we come out of it, you're going to be extremely busy. So, but there are always cycles. Every 10 years, about 7 to 10 years, there are cycles. There's a recession generally going back. If you look through history, around about every 7 to 10 years, some kind of recession tends to happen, and it does pass. So if you think about, look at it in the seasons of the year, there's always summer, there's always autumn, there's winter, and there's spring. So there's the expression, make hay while sun shines. So in the good times, when everything's good, that's not when you necessarily go out and buy your Ferraris and start spending loads of money. Sometimes I think in business, you have to put money away because you know that winter is coming. And if we know that there are cycles every 7 to 10 years, we know that we need to have some cash reserves in place. And as I'm sure you'll agree, cash is king. And cash really does help you to ride the waves and those storms, so that when you come out the other side, you are still around and also thriving out the other end, to then really take advantage of the situation at the end in the most positive way. So there are cycles. We need to know them. We'll get through them. It's happened before. In whatever guise it is, whether it's viruses or stock market crashes or credit crunch, all those kind of things, we will still be here at the end of it. But we do need to change. Everyone has to change. And we need to get ahead of that and not wait. We need to adapt quickly. We need to pivot. We need to look at our business. We need to plan for that. So you're the ones, your companies, the people in your business to really come together. But for you to lead your people through that is going to be crucial. Now there's a a specific formula for change that we use. It may seem a little bit crazy to have a mathematical equation on here, but what this stands for, take notes, is your dissatisfaction, D for dissatisfaction, times by your vision, plus your first steps must be greater than your resistance to change. If everything's going along nicely and there's no real pain in life, why would you change? You could be, the example could be weight loss, it could be a relationship, it could be if you want to give up smoking, or in this situation, the dissatisfaction is pretty bad. It's horrendous, and the vision for the future could be no more business, going bust. So what are the first steps you need to do to change? Because it must be greater than resistance to do nothing about it. So you can apply that formula to any situation. Something has to get bad enough before you're actually willing to do something about it. And in the times we're in now, it's pretty bad. And we need to make sure we do make the right changes at the right time, and we don't just sit there waiting for things to happen. So look at, some of the products and services that you might not necessarily always prioritize in promoting, but some of those may be more relevant now, more appealing and in demand now than they were before. We need to maybe look at changing pricing, maybe do some deals, maybe the way we look at delivery our service. You'd have seen lots of restaurants now switching to takeaway deliveries, actually delivering them or collection. You're going to need to change the staffing, which we'll come on to shortly. But we do need to change and adapt as quickly as possible to the current climate. So maybe even the whole business has to change. Your traditional business, the core business, may totally change in this for this period of time, just to ride through the other side. Sometimes you've got to break the business down a little bit just to rebuild it to get through this situation. Cutbacks. Cost cutting is a big priority when you're in a crisis. Cash is key. So if you don't have a cash flow forecast for the next 3 months, then that's the first part of your homework today. We really need to manage the cash flow. Look at all your overheads. Look at everything you've got in your business. Look at what potential existing business you still have coming through. Look at your P&L for the next 3 months. What are the things that you can take off that? Anything that's not going to help you specifically with overcoming this situation, take a view on it, whether it's your business overheads or your personal ones. We really need to make sure that we're making the most of the cash that we do have in the business. So you may have to stop certain times of spending. Look at where those savings can be. Only the really the priority costs that we need to keep in the business do we need to actually focus on. If you need to renegotiate, now's the time, whether it's with existing suppliers, renegotiating your rents, have a little a list of all the things that you can renegotiate or minimize or cut at the moment. You might have to postpone a few things. I'd imagine you probably will. But we need to take quick action if you haven't done already. I know we've been in this situation now for a good few weeks. I'm sure many of you have made a lot of changes already. If you haven't, then obviously now is the time to do that. And we've got to keep marketing and selling. Must keep doing that. Whatever happens, I'll come on to that in a minute. We are going to focus on some marketing stuff and extending credit. At the moment, the Bank of England's interest rate is the lowest it's been for 300 odd years. It's the cheapest time to borrow money. Not that we want to borrow money, but if we need to, whilst it's still available, I think today, I think I'm right in saying that today they're going to be announcing the mechanics of how you can apply for the grants and the loans and everything else. So make sure that if it's available, go and get it. You don't have to use it. If you were to get a 50 grand or 100 grand loan, just keep it there. If you don't need it, give it back. It's not going to cost you anything, but what it will enable you to do is maybe give you a bit of peace of mind that you know that whatever happens, you'll ride the wave, and you might need to dip into it, you might not. But whilst it's there, the government at the moment have really stepped up and they are looking to help. So I'm not going to go into all the different areas that they've got. You've been watching the news, I'm sure, over the last few days. And they're doing regular updates as well. So make sure you know where to go and how to apply for this funding, because cash is really king. And look at your credit lines, look at the company credit cards, look at your personal credit cards. Look, they're there for a reason, for a rainy day, hopefully, and not to be living on generally. But if you have got these credit lines and you've already minimised all your outgoings as much as you possibly can, we don't know how long this is going to last for. So we need to make sure that we've got things covered so you can still put food on the table, you can still get by and still pay the bills that you need to pay. If you have to refinance any existing loans that you've currently got, now's a good time to do that. If you've got finance on high interest rates, go back to the finance companies, ask if you can refinance those deals, just so that you can make some savings. Whatever finance that is, I'm sure they'll be open to doing a bit more of a deal, so you can reduce your costs. Obviously, have a look around. I mean, on the personal side, I think Money Supermarket with Martin Lewis, he's a very, very busy man at the moment. He's been all over the TV. Look at what the best rates are at the moment. Look at transferring any credit cards you currently have. If you're on, an interest rate that's higher than the base rate, or 10 or 20% interest rate, let's see what you can do to maybe just transfer balances over to those as soon as you can. Just to minimise the monthly outgoings to see you through. If you've got credit lines or suppliers, just see if you can get those extended. If you don't ask, you don't get. So staffing cuts. Look, certain kinds of industries, it's inevitable. If you look at the restaurant trade, the bars, hotels, all those kind of businesses are really, really going to suffer. The government is stepping in, as they've announced recently. So peace of mind, at least, that people know that that there is help out there, and that it's not necessarily quite as disastrous as it could have been without that help. So maybe you offer people to take holiday, maybe you have to get rid of all your staff at once, or just if they leave, then natural attrition. Sometimes you just got to do what you've got to do, but there is help out there for you. Pay cuts are an option. I've got a few clients who are have got a lot of subbies as their staff, but they're ongoing subbies. You may have some too. They've put a sliding scale in place, whereby I think if they go into lockdown, I think he'll cover for the first 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, it will be 60% of their normal salary, or the normal amount they get paid. Then it drops down to, I think, 40%, then 20% or 25%, which works for them. And obviously, if you're self-employed, you've got the 73 quid a week, and it doesn't go far, but the 73 quid a week government subsidy that they're going to be contributing towards. But look at pay cuts, not necessarily having to get rid of everyone, but if people are prepared to take cuts, and I know that a lot of our clients, their staff have said, look, I'll work for free for a month, or I'll work for a massively reduced salary for the next few months. Then potentially that's an option. And if you think about it, it's quite relative. A lot of your staff, and potentially yourself, your outgoings could be less. If you've got a 3-month deferral on your mortgage, then obviously you're not going to need quite so much. That could be the same as for your employees. If they're renting, then obviously they've had announcements on how they're going to help people that are renting. So although they may be stressing that they're not going to have the full salary, potentially if they haven't got the outgoings of the big lumpy bills that go out every month like those, then potentially they can get by for a period of time like that. So pay cuts not always such a bad situation, really, when we're faced with times like these. Obviously, I would presume that it would go without saying that bonuses will probably not be happening at the moment, and they'll be suspended because the whole business model has changed for most people. Now more so than any time in history, I think we've got great technology at our fingertips for those of you that need it and it's relevant for. So many different ideas these days in all different areas of your business. A lot of these you probably use. I mean, we're on a Zoom call today. Skype's been around for years. Those of you who use Microsoft 365, they've got Teams. There's Trello. there's all sorts of different options. You know, your cloud-based account software, presumably if you use Xero or QuickBooks or even Sage. It's not like the old days where you're stuck to one computer with that software on that system. I presume that most of you have cloud-based software within your business. So if we can, as and when we can, we need to do that. If you've got people currently working from home, make sure you have daily meetings. A lot of our clients are having daily meetings first thing in the morning, setting the goals and the targets and the KPIs for each day. So they're not just at home doing nothing, but they've actually got productive things that they can be working on if possible. So having daily meetings, daily planning, and also how you report that back on a daily basis. So if there's anything else that you've got that you'd like to share on here, please feel free to put it in the chat box, because we'd like to share as many good practice things that you're doing in all these different areas so that everyone can benefit from them. Customer service obviously is key. You can still divert the phones potentially, and we've got email. So looking at banking, online banking, obviously I think most people do their banking online now. Not often you go into a branch these days for most businesses. But just keep communicating with everyone working from home, all your suppliers. Just make sure that you're not just sitting at home, not doing much, or I'm sure you will be doing a lot, but let's make sure that any members of staff you've got are being productive at least, because you don't know how long it's going to go on for. It could be weeks, it could be months. I think if people can actually heed the advice of the government and actually stay in, we'll get through this so much quicker. But unfortunately, still a lot of people not taking that advice. Don't know how bad it needs to get for people to do what they're supposed to do. But it's not within our control. If you've got a business that, as we touched upon earlier, that could offer delivery, see how you can deliver your product or your services or your products in a different way. What could you do? What have other people in your industry done? So to look to do a bit of research, find out what other people are doing, see how they've changed, whether you offer an online or a phone delivery service. Obviously you need to make some staff changes. Maybe the roles of some people from what they were doing before, maybe they become a delivery driver for a period of time, but at least they keep their job. But I think we've all got to be flexible in times like this. So some people might not want to move out of their house. Sometimes, maybe in the not too distant future, people are not going to be able to move out of their house. Whether we can go to them, who knows whether that's still going to be an option if the country's on a full and total lockdown. But for the time being, until that changes, we need to look at ways that we can adapt and change. And obviously, once we've made these decisions, very important, obviously, sure it goes without saying that you need to communicate with your customers and let them know of these changes. So marketing and selling still need to be trying to do as much of this as possible. A lot of people, when times are tough, they'll cut their marketing budget. But what are people doing at the moment when they're at home? And depending on what the business you're in and what you offer, everyone's on social media. Everyone's on their phones, on their laptops, and their tablets. You've probably got more of an audience now than you ever would have. Depending on what you're in, I mean, a lot of our clients, about 70% of our clients are in the landscaping industry at the moment. And, if people are stuck at home, they're going to spend a lot of time in the garden doing things that they may not have done. So if you're going to do anything, just get more presence on your social media, do more marketing, not less. If you do certain marketing that requires either advertising or in some way, shape or form, you may be in a good position to negotiate rates now and get marketing or advertising a lot cheaper than maybe you would normally do. Create specific offers, relevant offers for this climate. So look at your products and services, look at the relevant target market, your ideal customers for those type of offers, and maybe do bundled deals, special offers, special rates for a limited time only, to see if you can just stimulate people taking action and making some buying decisions. You may not understand what the 5 ways numbers are, but Action Coach, we have a leveraged sort of marketing formula, which is your leads times by your conversion rate, gives you your number of customers. With those number of customers, you need them to come back, so repeat business. And each time they come with you to your business, you need to increase the amount, the order value, which then gives you your revenue, and you times that by your margins, which gives you a bottom line profit. So there's 5 key areas that you can influence. You can do a lot to generate more leads, to break it down, to multiply it out, so you can focus on different lead generation strategies, or increasing your leads, your sources, or the amount you do in each one of those sources, how much you spend in each one of those sources. We then can work on what strategies to apply to convert those leads into more customers. We can work on ways of developing offers and strategies and communication to get people coming back more as much as possible. And then we can obviously look at how we can bundle things up so we can increase the average order value. And you times all these things together, then you can multiply the end result. If you need to find out, or you want more information on that, I can send you a video on exactly how it works, and you can put your numbers in. So just let me know if you do want that. If possible, and where possible, if you can get cash up front, obviously that will help a great deal. So talking about repeat business, existing customers, obviously your best customers. You know, they know you, they like you, they trust you, they've done business with you before. These are priceless to keep hold of your existing customers. You might have specific deals purely for your existing customers that are not for any other new customers, or you may choose to do it across the board. But potentially, you know, if you've got customers that buy certain types of products, you might want to see if you can do them a deal if they're going to buy it anyway. Maybe bulk buy, gets cash into your business. Or if you can offer cash up front as an option, which will help for you. But you need to keep existing customers as much as you possibly can, so that when you come out the other side and you looked after them, you know, the loyalty from these people are going to be so much better. But communication with your customers, if you're not already, regular communication is really, really important, as you know. So let's just make sure we keep that relationship, all those relationships going, so that everyone knows that you're still there, you still care, and you're doing the right things in the right areas, and you can still help. So you may have heard of the 80-20 rule. So generally 80% of your revenue comes from the top 20% of your customers. Look at your customers, see if that's the case. Obviously you need to look after those as best you can. And number 12 of steps, at the 11 steps, which is sort of over-promise and under-deliver, or under-promise, over-deliver, I think I should say, is really, really just go the extra mile. Really, really, if you're not going the extra mile, if you're not exceeding your customers' expectations, really, really now is the time to do that, to really create that wow factor, so that people think, wow, what a company they are. They're doing everything they can. They really are going over and above what is normally required. A few other tips here, as I'm sure you're very much aware of, and hopefully paranoid about: cleaning everything. Every single door handle you're doing, constantly wash your hands, all the usual stuff that you've heard. But make sure that not just you're doing it, but every single individual, if you still are in situations where you've got contact with others, make sure that you do just obsess with cleanliness and staying hygienic. If you can find some, provide sanitizer, as long as they haven't been bought by, you know, these bulk buyers that keep nicking it. Which doesn't help anyone else. So put people first. Ultimately, we want to make sure that you're safe, your people are safe, and everyone that you know is safe. So let's just make sure that, you know, business is great, you know, but ultimately these are human beings, and we need to keep everyone safe. And everyone is in this together. So make sure if you see staff members or even yourself, you know, just to remember, you know, we need to make sure that we're just putting the good habits in place. And as they say, it takes 21 days to make or break a habit. So after 21 days, it should be pretty much unconscious. You know, you should be unconsciously doing these things. Just should be habits that you're now adopting going forward. And I think we're going to be in this for maybe a little bit longer than 21 days. We already have been more than 21 days. And so hopefully some of your staff are in the good habits of doing these things now. But look, just relax as much as you can. Panicking doesn't help. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help your staff. It's not going to help your kids, your family. But maybe I think this could be a good thing. I think you probably heard in the news where sometimes I think at the end of this, we're going to all maybe not take things for granted and take people for granted. And we should come out hopefully with people reflecting on what they can do better, and how they can be a nicer person off the back of it, for those people that are not really, don't really take a lot of notice of other people's feelings. But ultimately, we don't want to be buying too much toilet paper. Don't get sucked into all the bulk buying. It will, the shelves will replenish. Every day there's deliveries. We don't need to panic, and it should start calming down after the initial panic, and I'm sure it will. Just do what you got to do. How much you can, how much you need, and no more, and have a lot of respect for others and thoughts for other people, especially the older people that seem to be missing out, and all the NHS people. So I've been chatting away for the last 40 minutes or so, 35 minutes or so. Let's have some questions. I'm sure there's some questions that you've got. I'm sure there's lots more there that you've got some ideas that you can share with people. Let's have a look. We've got no questions in here at the moment, so I'm presuming that everyone who's on the call doesn't have any questions. I'm not necessarily going to unmute you if you're scared. You can ask the questions, and I promise I won't put you in that situation. I know some people are worried about that, so don't worry about that. If you don't want to be unmuted, I won't unmute you. If you have questions, put them in. So we've got someone who said specific help for the self-employed. I understand that the government are going to be announcing special plans for the self-employed today, I thought. So I don't know what the latest national line is on that, but if anyone else can shed any light on that, that would be very useful. I think the most important things really is just to keep looking at all the updates, understanding what the mechanisms are for you to go and get this support, and how quickly you can get that, I think is really important as well. Yeah, I mean, everyone, all business owners, obviously self-employed, and they're going to be looked after as well. So we've had another couple of questions come in. Thanks, Nick. If our bank is healthy, we still need to be allowed to get the grants. Yeah, I believe you still are going to get the grants. I don't think it's based on anything else. Just because the fact that you happen to have got yourself into a good situation, there's still tax bills to come later on down the line, the corporation tax bills. There's allowances for that as well in terms of time to pay. So yeah, I believe that you're still going to be able to get grants. And they've increased them from the initial announcement originally. They've increased those recently as well. So yeah, Nick, I don't think, good that you've got a nice healthy bank account, but yeah, I think you should still be eligible. Jill, are there going to be any more announcements today? Yes, I think I just answered that one. I believe so. There's no time on it. I've been checking all morning, but they did say back end of last week that on Monday they're going to be announcing how people can actually access all the relevant grants that are relevant to you. Obviously, there's lots of different pots, and there's lots of different things for different people, from rate relief to staff's statutory sick pay and how you apply for that, how you get your a tax break holiday, how to apply for grants, how to apply for the loans. Obviously, if we apply for these loans, we don't have to use them, but we can just pay them back. Good for peace of mind. The grants obviously are grants, so that's they're just payments that you can get. But yeah, make sure whatever happens, you protect yourself as soon as possible with cash. We need to get cash because cash is the oxygen for business. And if you're starved of oxygen, you die. If you're starved of cash in the business, you die. So make sure you can look at everything as soon as possible, because you don't want to be the last to the party and it's all gone. I'm sure there'll be more funds available there, as they've said there will be. So yeah, keep your eyes out, Jill. Susan, has anyone got any good or fun ideas to keep people who are working remotely motivated? So there's a question for everyone. How do you keep everyone motivated? I think personally, whether they're having good fun or fun ideas, daily meetings and daily plans and daily phone calls and reporting helps people to stay focused, giving them things where they're going to be productive, I think is really helpful. I've got a client in Gibraltar, and they said they've got a 1 hour phone call the start of every single day, all employees, they use Microsoft Teams, so you can see every single person on their screen, and they're having this interactive meeting as like a normal team meeting, but they're having it every single day, initially for an hour, to make sure that everyone knows exactly what they're responsible for delivering that day. And then the next day they sort of say, right, how did you get on with that? Any questions? What help do you need? And what are the goals for the next day and for the next week? And how can we all help each other achieve that? So yeah, I think it's good to have fun. We want them to be motivated and productive. So if anyone has any ideas that can help answer Susan's question about having good, fun ideas to keep people motivated when they're outside of the office, then type away. Right, Kay, another question from Kay. Do we have to do anything, or does our accountant apply for us? Look, I've spoke to an accountant this morning, and he said he's got 65 phone calls to make today. His inbox is literally breaking. There's only so much that the accountant can do. I think that it's probably fair that you're probably going to have to make those calls when they come out and announce what those mechanisms are. I personally don't think it should be a phone number, because I don't know about you, I've been trying to cancel my Sky Sports for the last 3 days. It's impossible. And same with BT Sport. I think, you know, if everyone's going for these grants, I just don't see how a call center could do it. So maybe, I would imagine it would be like an online process. But again, I think you're going to have to look out for that. But I don't think it's necessarily fair or realistic that your accountant is going to be able to help you if they've got 100, 300, 500 or more clients, you know, and they're all inundated. So I think, yeah, it's about being above the line, taking ownership and doing it yourself, I would imagine, Kay. So thanks for that question. Alex, hi Nick, in knowledge that my colleagues will be off for probably weeks, working from home can become a bit tiresome. So as well as marketing, I've made sure that we all have a training schedule as well to mix it up a bit. Learning is earning, as you used to say to me. Absolutely. I think if they don't have specific work to be getting on with, times like this are brilliant for learning, for systemizing, for putting processes and procedures in place to work on your business. I'm sure most of you have heard of the expression, if you work, you know, you need to work on your business and minimize working in the business. As business owners, we should be looking to spend 80 to 90 to 100% of our time working on the business. And it's your great staff that work on great systems. So if you don't have systems in your business, or you've been thinking about doing systems and putting processes and procedures in place and documenting those processes and procedures, get the people who are currently doing those jobs to document step by step exactly how they're going to do those, how those processes and procedures should be done. Then hand it to someone who doesn't do that job, get them to follow that system step by step. And if at the end of that whole process, that task can be done without any interruption from that person, then tick, that's one process done and dusted. So, you know, I think using these periods of time to work on the business, sometimes it forces you to do that anyway, because a lot of the time business owners are not in the position where they're working 80 or 90 or 100% of their time working on it. In many cases, they're probably working 80 or 90% in the business. So look at the opportunity there. So good question, Alex. I think learning is a great way of working on yourself, because if you become better, your life becomes easier. If you work hard on yourself than you do on your job or your business, then your job or your business gets easier. Things are only difficult when we don't know how to do them. When you learn how to do something, you think, oh, that's easy. So a brilliant question, a great observation. If some of you don't learn and don't read a lot of books, don't listen to a lot of audiobooks, don't do your video learning, then it's the perfect time to re-educate yourself and brush up your knowledge in certain areas, but get people working on some of the business, working on the business tasks if they're not actually, if there's no customers out there to service in some cases. Good question now. Who we got here? Jill. I hope you're not asking me to do a sing-song. A sing-song at the virtual team meeting. Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, I use singing songs as a bit of a forfeit if clients are late onto their calls, or if they don't send me their information back. And I tend to record those and threaten to share them if they do it again. So Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Jill. Have a little sing song. You might not want to do that after a while if you've got some people with with particularly bad voices. But yeah, it does. Music's good, isn't it? Music and singing, making the fun the best of a bad situation, I think will help. So yeah, sing song at the team meetings. Suggestion from Jill. Thanks. Nick, if we have a retail staff that don't work because the government has asked this side of the business to close, and then pays staff 80% to stay at home, how can we motivate production workers that are asked to work and only get 20% more? Well, look, I think if they don't, they're going to be out of a job. So as harsh as that is, I think, if you ask me that question, I think the fact that they've still got a job and they're going to be able to get through this, it's not forever. It really isn't forever. At this time in life, in the situation we're in, we're all going to have to adapt. And I think with situations like that, it's about positioning. And if you sit them down, you position your staff in the right way and explain to them, look, this is the situation. We are one full team. Unfortunately, you're still tasked with doing a lot of the work. But, by pulling together as a team, whether they're at home or whether they're actually physically doing work there, then I think it's just, it's about coming together, being flexible. It's not an ideal situation for anybody, but I'm afraid if we're going to come out the other side, people are going to have to be more flexible than they've ever been before. And positioning, I think, is everything. And you'll look after them. So maybe at the end of this process, when we get through it, I'll make sure that you do get looked after. There may be some kind of bonus thing there, in gratitude for their hard work and their ability to adapt and help you out. Because you need to be, everyone needs to be pulling their weight. Jill, so thanks for that, Nick. Jill, can staff still work if they are furlonged? Just explain a bit what you mean there, Jill, because I'm not quite sure what the question really means. So if you could just give us a little bit more on that, then that will be very useful. 80%. Being paid 80% means they are laid off. I'm not sure if it is laid off permanently though, is it? If they're laid off at home, is that not needed? I think their jobs are still going to be secured at the end of that. It'd be crazy for them not to be, unless it's a good excuse to get rid of people that weren't performing anyway, which I doubt. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think you have to look into the ins and outs. I've got some documents actually, some HR documents that go into that plus many other loads and loads of pages that answers all your questions, all of those kind of staff related questions. If you want that, at the end of this call, I'll maybe just send an email to all of you and just everything that we've come up with here. I'll share with you. Anything that helps. Right, who else do we have? Oh, Jill again, but kept on payroll. Yeah, I think they kept on the payroll, not necessarily working, but the government are helping out with that. So I don't know, Jill. The information I've got, it's lots of information, but off the top of my head, I'm not an expert in every single area of all the things that have been happening. I've been, keeping abreast of it. There's a lot of technical things and specific questions that you would need to get extra advice. I think one place to go that would and should be up to date with all these kind of situations, all these examples that you're asking, is ACAS. ACAS are working closely with the government. If you go to the ACAS website, they will be able to give you the right and correct up-to-date information. And yeah, you're right, Joe, there's more to come. But look at the ACAS website, all these kind of questions that you're asking that are staff related. It's updated quite often at the moment. So I think you've got to make sure that you just go to the right sources. Like I said earlier, if you just go to the right sources, not necessarily just getting someone's opinion, mine or anyone else's. I think when you've got specific questions in important areas like staff, employment law and in situations like this, I think you've got to go to the experts. You wouldn't go to the doctors and say, "Oh, can you do a brain surgery?" Do brain surgery. You think, blimey, they're a GP, a general practitioner. They know a lot about everything. When you need specific advice, you need to go to the specialists. That's what I'd say to that. Any other questions? Loads of questions have come in. Hopefully we've managed to cover as much of them as possible. If there isn't, then we'll carry on. Oh, Nick, how soon will banks be offering lower rate loans as the bank rate has dropped? I think today they're going to be coming out apparently with information on how you can access these lower rate loans. I've been sort of heard through the grapevine that it will be in April, from the beginning of April. I know Alex is on the call, has already been in touch with them, and they said to him, I think, if I'm right, Alex, I think you said about beginning of April, first week or two in April, to get, I think, the 10 grand grant that you've got approved. You were very proactive on that, so all will be revealed. I know the bank, the government are working really, really quickly behind the scenes. It may not seem that they are, but they're really, as you can imagine, very, very busy at the moment. Alex, beginning of April, the local authorities should contact us. So by the beginning of April, your local authority, wherever you are in the country, will be contacting you. Thanks, Alex. So hopefully, Nick, that's answered that question. But go to the relevant websites. I've got a document I'll send you which has the right websites for the right kind of areas. So if you want, we've created a Dropbox folder for all our clients, and everything that's updated I put in there, so they've got access to the latest information all the time and the latest contact details and information. So if you want some of that information, I can send it through to all of you at the end of the call. Okay, any more questions before we carry on? Still got a few things to go through with you. So sounds like, oh, is there another question coming in? That'll be great. Thanks, Jill. Will do. Okay, right. That's enough of the questions for now then. Oh, we've got a chat room here, webinar chat. Transfer your pension over to SAS, then you get 50% loan. Well, that makes it sounds like someone knows what they're talking about. It takes 3 to 4 months to sort out. So I think you can all see the chat window there. How do you handle staff who want to postpone annual leave because they can't travel? Yeah, this is one that's come up quite a few times, because if they've been off work for 4 months and then they ask to take holiday, that's not been. I've not heard that being dealt with properly yet. I think that's probably going to be an ACAS situation, because you don't want people taking this to tribunal once it's all happened at the end of the year when they say, look, I haven't taken my holiday. I don't know the answer to that yet. ACAS. That's about the 3rd or 4th time I've heard that come up, which is going to be an issue for everybody, isn't it? Bearing in mind they're supposed to be working from home, and it's not supposed to be time off for a lot of people. But I'm sure they'll introduce something. If you've got 80%, of wages being covered by those people that have to go off, I'm sure everyone will have to be flexible around that and be reasonable about that. But I don't think that's actually come out yet. I've not heard any official line on that. So thanks, Francis. Anyway, right, actions for you now. It's not just about coming on this webinar and learning a few things and getting a few ideas and asking a few questions. I want you to go through what notes you have. Make sure that you've got specific actions. If you haven't taken action on some of those things already, work out what actions you're actually going to take. Don't be alone. Don't do this stuff alone. The power of your team, if you're lucky enough to have good team members, is to do it as a team. It shouldn't all be on your shoulders as the business owner. Make it a team effort. Really, in times of crisis, it's when people come together. You want to have people's back, and you want them to have your back. So if you need to get people involved, brainstorm with the teams. All right, this is the challenge team. What do we expect? What are your thoughts? What are your ideas? No idea is so silly. No silly idea in a brainstorm. Just make sure you get everything up there. Listen to everyone's ideas, because that one idea that might look silly on the face of it could actually spark a really, really good idea. That's the rules of a brainstorming session. So use the technology you have. I've got a 90-day planning template that I've updated. So I'll send that to you all. And that basically will have who does what by when. So it's a 3-month columns with 13 weeks in every quarter. So with all the different areas of the business on the left-hand side, so it'll be like finance, marketing, team, systemization down the left-hand side, and then you've got every single week of the quarter, so it's 13 columns, and then you just put in who's going to do what by when. Sometimes it'll have more than one person's signature initials in it, but make sure that you've got a plan that everyone can see and they are part of, and they've got their part of that plan to be accountable for and to deliver. So I'll add that as well. Like I say, make sure you've got daily plans. So looking at those 90-day plans, think, right, this week coming up, what have we got to do? Who's got to do what? Making sure that you keep that communication going is really, really important. Keeping the morale up as well. So share the plans with your team every day, every week. Update them, brainstorm them, help each other out. Just another thing, tomorrow night, I'll send you an invite to this. So Brad Sugar's the founder of Action Coach, Australian chap who founded Action Coach. He's a billionaire, got 9 businesses, Action Coach being his biggest one. Now we're in over 100 countries around the world. He is an expert in business, and we'll be doing a webinar tomorrow night to thousands of business owners around the world. And I would suggest that it'd be really, really good for you to come onto it. We did this presentation a week ago. This is an updated version of what we've covered today. So a lot has happened in the last 11 or 7 days. And it'll be the latest advice and information you could possibly get. So I'll send you the link to that as well. It's free, obviously. Just go on there, have a look, see what you think. Just keep yourself educated and updated. That's what you've got to keep doing. Keep implementing the stuff that you're being taught, and you'll get through this better than anyone else who's not currently doing all this sort of stuff. But if any of you want any extra help, or if you want to have a chat with me, want to email me about any kind of help or coaching options that you might want, feel free, please, to get in touch. We can have a chat, just a free chat, just to sort of help you out. Any other questions that we haven't covered here today? Look, I want to help as many people as I possibly can through this process. We've got lots of clients of our own. We've got lots of, so far, all doing well, all doing the right things. But if there's anyone else out there who's feeling a little bit isolated in their business, or don't really know what to do, or don't really have anyone to speak to, look, let's not, I'm not going to ignore anybody. We'd like to help as many people as possible throughout this period. If you need to contact me, obviously I presume you've got my email address anyway. It's nice and easy. nickruddle@actioncoach.com. Phone number's down there. If you want a copy of these slides, more than welcome. I'll send out some information to you, some of the stuff that we talked about already. I also have a cash flow forecast template for you as well, which I've made a note of remembering to tell you. Really, really, really useful. It's up to date. It's got January 2020 all the way through. I'll add that to your to the list of things I'm going to send you as well. But ultimately, don't panic. Don't try and worry about things that you can't influence. Don't worry about things that haven't happened yet. Focus on the challenge ahead of you, overcome that, and see what you can do at that moment in time. We're going to have to adapt a lot over the coming weeks and months, and let's not just get too far ahead and start worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. Just had a message come through. Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. Thanks for your participation. It's great. No other questions come through. It's been a pleasure helping you today. I hope that you found it useful. It's very strange for me doing this because I'm just sitting here talking to a screen and looking at myself, and it's quite bizarre. Although I coach people generally on Skype, generally, now it's going to go over to Zoom, but there's someone there's video. But I hope it's been useful. If you'd like any other help, just give us a shout. Alex, yeah, thanks, great advice. Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for being here today. It's not far off, bang on time. So thanks for everyone. I will record, this has been recording, so I could send you a link of this. I'll send you a load of stuff. Keep in touch with me. It's been a pleasure. People coming through. Cheers, Nick. Cheers, Nick. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, David. Thanks, Toby. Thank you. Phone number that I don't recognise. Keep in touch. If you need anything else, I'm here to help. So for now, I will work out how to turn this thing off. So I'll speak to you soon.